Welcome once again to Velvet Owl. Watch his movie so you don't have to. Yeah, I really killed that with that attempt at a high note. Because, you're supposed to start things on a high note, right? And then end on a high note. And then in the middle, you could just fuck off all you want. I think those are the rules. So, yeah, I don't have much of an intro this week. This week, we are watching, or I am watching, because the whole point of this podcast is that I watch a movie, so you don't have to. But, of course, as always, feel free to watch the movie yourself. Because I'm not your mom. I'm not your dad. I'm not even your uncle. So, you do what you want. But, if you don't want to watch the movie, but want to hear someone ramble about it, the premise of this podcast is flawed the more I think about it. Because it takes almost as long to listen to this podcast as it does to watch the movie. So why don't you just watch the movie? Because it's amusing to listen to me, right? Sure. Whatever. This week, Assault of the Killer Bimbos. And I'm thinking these bimbos aren't actually, killer, as in, wee. But, total 80s, man, they're totally killer! I don't know. Let's see, the description is, when two go-go dancers are framed for murder by a sleazy gangster, they begin a wild ride, picking up a waitress on the way toward Mexico and freedom. So, I guess the killer is that they're assumed to be killers, but they're not really killers. Sorry, had to take an important phone call there, which, in a professional podcast, they would then, go edit that out, but... yeah, if you've listened to this even for as far as this episode so far, you know this is not a professional podcast. So, but don't worry, I'm not going to jail, and I'm not dying. That's all you really need to know about my situation. But, Assault of the Killer Bimbos! I'm actually, really curious with the cover art for it. Because it shows the three bimbos and they're kind of flying. And I'm sure it's just kind of a ridiculous over-exaggeration for the film. But man, I would so fucking love it if they can fly. Please, please. This is put out by Full Moon Features, so there's a possibility. Fingers crossed that the bimbos can fly. So we're at a go-go club. And in case you don't know, the difference between a go-go club and a strip club is that the dancers don't, show nipples. Which actually, that's not even true. And as far as some strip clubs, actually, you can't show nipples, depending on the zoning ordinance. Thank you, local zoning ordinance, because my local strip club is one of those that can't show nipples. Fucking Reagan. This is what we get for voting in Reagan. Yeah, that was 40 years ago. I don't care. I am still complaining about all the trickle down. I don't even know if it was Reagan. But Reagan seems like the type that would have passed laws saying women can't show their nipples. Free the nipple for money. That's what I'm saying. Women should be allowed to show their nipples in exchange for cash dollars. But that's my personal opinion, and that's nowhere. So we're at the go-go dance. The go-go club. They call it go-go club, I guess, because, it's kind of, a little more, tasteful than strip club. Although all the patrons are, sleazy Guidos. Oh boy. It's total 80s. And the star dancer, who I've already forgotten her name. Peaches, I think. She's, just dancing, and there's this blonde bimbo, the stereotypical, 80s blonde bimbo, because she's got, the ponytail to one side. You know the kind. Just total I wouldn't say total valley girl, but she's what you think of if someone were to tell you 80s blonde bimbo. She fits it to a T. And she's just walking around telling all the customers about, how much she loves peaches and wishes that, she could go up there and do her own go-go strip dance number. But it's her lucky day. So apparently the next dancer hasn't shown up. And she's all like, well, if you give me a chance, I'll go up and dance. And the owner or manager or whoever this guy is, he's like, okay, but you owe me one. Which, that's kind of part of the unfortunate dynamic between the workers and the bosses. Fucking capitalism. That she's gonna owe him, even though she's doing him a favor. And he's doing her a favor, so it cancels out. But he who owns the means of capital owns the bimbos. I don't know. I just made that up. If you couldn't tell by how stupid it is. So, rest assured that was completely made up on the spot. Because if someone took the time to think it out and the best they could come up with, he who owns the means of capital owns the bimbos, then that person just should quit writing. Because they're not very good. And that is why I don't have writers. I make this all up the top of my head so that I can at least blame the horribleness on the fact that, it's not written. Plus, it allows me to avoid the writer strike. So I don't have writers. So I'm not a scab. The WGA can't be like, oh, fucking Velvet Al is scabbing and putting shows with writers. No, I'm not. And anyone who listens to this will know for sure. Yeah, this guy is definitely not using writers. So the blonde bimbo gets into a costume, a sort of Fruit of the Loom costume with, fruit all over. And she walks past a sleazy Guido guy who walks out and sits down next to his Guida girlfriend. Is that a thing? Guida? What do you call, the stereotypical, sleazy Italian girlfriends of the Guidos? Guidas, right? I don't know. I think it should be called Guidas. Poor unfortunate souls that have to date Guidos. But he says, that everything's all set. Something, not kosher is going to happen, I'm thinking. And so, it's time for Blonde Bimbo to make her grand debut. And she starts dancing. And she is a horrible dancer. Just not good at all. And everyone's booing. Except for one guy who wants to marry her. And there's chance of, leave it on, don't take it off. Which is kind of an odd chant, I think, considering that Peaches, the previous dancer, did not take it off. Because this is a club where they don't take it off. Because it's not a strip club, as, I find out. Because her costume starts falling apart and all the fruit falls off and manages to fly all over the club. I guess because of her bad, gyrating dance movements. Which causes the owner / MC to go all crazy because, this isn't a strip club, so if she's taking off her clothes, it's going to get them shut down. And he calls her a bimbo. And Peaches overhears this, and that makes her mad because she doesn't want anyone being called a bimbo because that is, degrading. That is the worst word, Worse than the word cunt. Maybe. I don't know. Personally, I think, we kind of, are oversensitive on the word cunt. The British love it. The British, it's a friendly greeting, hello, you cunt. It's over, in the UK, cunt is a good thing. And here, it's, the worst thing you can call a woman. It's so, I don't know. It's lost in translation, I guess. But since we're not going to go that far in the language in this movie, apparently, bimbo is the worst thing you can call a woman. And so, the owner, fires them, but then Peaches is like, you can't fire us because we quit. And there's about to be kind of like a riot or something. Like, everyone's kind of mad, and they go off. And meanwhile, the Guido, he pulls out a gun, because it's time to do whatever not kosher thing he's about to do. Backstage, Peaches and the blonde bimbo, whose name is Lulu, and I will actually refer to her by her name, which is weird. I usually don't refer to characters by names in these podcasts, as anyone who's listened for more than one podcast knows. But I am going to give these bimbos the respect they deserve. I have learned her name. Peaches and Lulu. And Lulu's all upset because she thinks she just doesn't have it, but Peaches is like trying to be encouraging her, and Lulu takes off her top saying, "We got boobs!" Assault of the Killer Bimbos passes the Velvet Owl test. That's me stamping my approval. I need a sound effect. I need to come up with a sound effect for when films pass the Velvet Owl test, like or something. Yeah. So, who knows? Where am I going with this? Sorry, I got thrown off because, I'm talking about this film passing the Velvet Owl test because it shows boobs. At the same time, I'm getting texts from my mom. So, it's kind of just throwing my mind off like, whoa! What the hell? I'm talking about boobs, and my mom's texting me, like, what the hell? I can't handle the two coinciding like that. So I should probably take a pause and deal with my mom. No, this podcast is more important than dealing with my mom. So, they're getting dressed, and they're going to hightail it out of there and find new work dancing somewhere else. But meanwhile, sleazy Guido guy, he goes into the manager's room, where the owner / MC / manager / whatever, he's there on the phone, but the Guido comes in and shoots him. Because, I don't know, the owner probably owes money to some mobster or something. And unfortunately, the gunshot catches the attention of Lulu and Peaches, who run in, and they're like, oh no! And the Guido, who's smart and quick thinking, hands the gun over to Peaches. He hands it over to Lulu. Because obviously Lulu's the more dumb, confused one. And he's like, yeah, hold on to it. And he gets out before the security guards can make it in. And they see, oh no, Lulu is holding the gun. And remember, he was mad at her. And, he fired Lulu and Peaches. So they have motive for shooting our boss, Shifty Joe. I don't know, I feel like someone mentioned the name Shifty Joe. And I could be completely wrong, and I don't know if the owner was Shifty Joe, or the guy who wanted the owner shot was Shifty Joe. And again, there might just not have been a Shifty Joe at all. But, yeah, so of course the security guards think that, oh no, it was these bimbos that shot him. And so Peaches takes the gun and like, yeah, you're going to get out of our way. And she hops up in her car with Lulu, and they're off to Mexico, because apparently Peaches is a wanted fugitive. Because long ago, she tried to be a Broadway actress, and she was trying to get a part. But she had to, go through the old casting couch, you know what I mean. But unfortunately, this producer was a sick fuck, and he wanted to not just fuck her, but handcuff her to a German Shepherd while fucking her. Which, okay. Yeah. Getting the Linda Lovelace treatment there. Like, I can understand why you'd be like, yeah, fuck no, I'm not gonna fuck you while handcuffed to a German Shepherd. Or any dog of any type. Really, any animal. So he punched her. No, she punched him. And he, filed assault and battery charges against her. And she skipped out on her warrant. Not her warrant, on her bail. So they issued a warrant. And she just went and assumed a new identity, as you could easily do back in the 80s. And became a dancer at the not quite a strip club. So, now that she's going to be wanted for murder, she's got to hightail it to Mexico. And Lulu's like, I'm down for the ride. Let's go to Mexico. Now, while they're driving, Lulu is telling Peaches about how, sometimes aliens abduct people and then take off their clothes and see them naked. And Lulu would just be completely freaked out if an alien saw her naked. But just aliens. I think she's okay with people seeing her naked. I assume. At least some people. I'm sure there has to be at least one person she's okay with seeing her naked. And Peaches is just like, okay, you're just fucking insane. And then they hear on the radio the report of... So it was Shifty Joe. He was the one that got shot. And the dancers are the main suspects and describes what they're wearing. Which then the girls realize, like, okay, we probably should at least change our clothes so that people won't recognize us. So they pull into a truck stop, change clothes in the parking lot, and then go inside where they're waited on by the waitress. I think Darlene is her name. And, of course, all the hicks there are just really, like, mean to Darlene. Well, I don't know if they're hicks. They're just kind of your stereotypical, like, lunk-headed truck drivers. And, like, Darlene, we want to see your donuts. And meanwhile, a group of surfers come in. And the leader of the surfers, he looks like a 6-foot-tall Owen Wilson. Or... like 6'6", probably, actually, more accurately. This is a tall motherfucker. So he's either a tall Owen Wilson or a skinny Boomer Eisen. Yay, Boomer. Not yay, Boomer. Okay, Boomer. How come they haven't made commercials with Boomer Eisen and someone saying, okay, Boomer. Hold on, I'm getting some text. And these ones I do want to actually read, because they're from my wife. So I will be back in a second, because I have to gather my thoughts, because the texts have thrown me off. Yeah, so they're all gathered, in the truck stop, and the truckers are being assholes, and the surfers, well, the two buddies they're kind of assholes too, but tall Owen Wilson, he's like a cool motherfucker. And so everything's fine until a highway deputy comes by, and he recognizes the license plate number, and he knows, oh no, the Bimbos who killed Shifty Joe are here, and he comes in and he pulls his gun. And this guy must have been, like, related to the director or something, because even by the standards of the bad acting in this film, he is horrid. Just completely, like, reading his script at the moment, like, freeze, you ladies, you're under arrest. Like, my God, it just not natural at all. He is single-handedly, like, one of the worst actors ever. Like, maybe he was hired to make everyone else look like, A-level talent. But Peaches grabs her gun, and she takes the waitress hostage. And she's like, well, you're gonna let us go. But then one of the truckers grabs Lulu, and he's like, well, you're gonna let her go. But then tall Owen Wilson punches the trucker, and the Bimbos manage to make it out with the waitress, and they're off, and they're on the highway and stuff. Peaches lets the waitress know that, they kind of got caught up in the heat of the moment, so she's not really being kidnapped, and so they're willing to let her off, next place that she wants. But the waitress is like, I don't really have anywhere to go. I don't want to go back to, being the waitress at that truck stop. So I'm going with you to Mexico. And then they drive, and a lot of pointless talking, intercut with scenes of the surfers driving and smoking weed and being all over the road. And they almost cut off the Bimbos, and then the Bimbos and the surfers end up at the same gas station, and tall Owen Wilson and Lulu, they're like, flirting, and they are so gonna bone later in this film. But yeah, this sequence is like at least 5-10 minutes of my life that I'll never get back. Granted, I'm not gonna get any of the time I've watched this movie back. But this stretch was particularly, like, just painful and boring. Now, the surfer guys go off on their merry way, but the gas station attendant, he tells the bimbos, because they're bimbos, am I gonna... I feel like I probably shouldn't keep calling them bimbos. It's very disrespectful. But, what the hell? I mean, the movie's called Assault of the Killer Bimbos. I will refer to them as bimbos. They're the bimbos. But anyways, because, they're women, gas station attendant's like, I can rip them off. He's like, oh, you're going to need a new carburetor. Oh, boy, your carburetor won't work. And Peaches is like, well, fuck that, let me check this, because, I may be a woman, but I know how cars work. Which, good for you, Peaches, because I'm a guy, and I know, like, nothing about cars. Thankfully, my wife knows somewhat about cars, so she's able to, kind of take some of that and deal with the car shit, and I'm just kind of like, sure, whatever you say, Mr. Mechanic. And so they're looking, and they got the hood popped up, and they're leaning over, and Mr. Mechanic, he's like, oh boy, these 3 bimbos with their asses hanging out, woo! And then he goes inside their car to start ruffling through it to, see what he could rob them of. But he finds their gun. Like, oh no! It's those killer bimbos that the cops are looking for! And, they can't, like, let him get away with this, because, he'll call the cops, and the cops will be after them. So they decide to super glue the mechanic to the wall. This must be, like, really fucking tough super glue. I'm assuming it's super glue. But, like, it's a fucking, like, toothpaste-sized tube. So it must be fucking industrial strength. Where, I mean, yeah, you get super glue on your hands, and that shit just fucking sucks. Especially you glue your fingers together, and it would just really fucking, like, impossible to get the glue off. But I've never managed to actually glue myself to an object, especially a wall where I couldn't get my hand off. At the very least, you might rip off some layers of skin, but the bimbos have some sort of industrial super glue, and the gas station attendant mechanic, he's stuck to the wall, and he deserves it, though. So he was trying to rip them off. Now, poor Lulu, she feels ugly, and it's something, women deal with, like, even when they're hot, which Lulu is hot, they still, feel that they're not hot. So the other 2 girls, they're like, we're going to give you a makeover. Over in the middle of the desert, set to the tune of some, like, really generic Madonna's Wannabe. Should I think I'll play some of it. Okay, that'll probably hit me with a copyright strike, but I think it was worth it, don't you? So, we got makeover. Which isn't even really a makeover, it's just her trying on other clothes. But she shows her boobs again a lot. Or maybe a body double, because we don't really get a good look at the face. And general rule of thumb in a movie, if you don't see the face with the boobs, it's probably a body double. It's a rule. But she did show her boobs earlier in the shot of her face. So she doesn't have, like, something against boobs or showing her boobs. But maybe there's a limit on how many boobs she will show in the movie. Like, because that's something that gets contracted. Like, it's written in the contract, like, my boobs will be on screen for only 10.5 seconds. So you got to get a body double for the other 30 seconds. But either way, there's boobs, so I'm not complaining. So they're back on the road, and they're worried about karma and all that, when, luckily, a chance for them to earn some good karma, because this old couple, they've broken down by the side of the road, their carburetor has flooded or overheated or something. I don't know, car terminology that I don't understand, but luckily Peaches, she's super car gearhead, and she does something with hairspray and nail polish remover to fix it, and I can't say whether or not that would actually work, Because, again, I know nothing about cars. So if any of my listeners out there want to let me know, can you really fix things in your car? And can you fix a carburetor using hairspray and nail polish remover? I'd be curious. You know what? Why don't I Google that now? I shouldn't. Why shouldn't I? I mean, I should pause while I Google it, but I'm not going to pause, because this is like real fucking time, you know? So, can you fix a carburetor with hairspray? And let's see what Oh, you can try hairspray if you're stranded without starter fluid or one of the other options. Hairspray ignites incredibly easily and can be sprayed into the carburetor just as easily as any of the choices. Which I guess this gives other choices as to... Wow. So I learned something. Hairspray can be used as a starter fluid. I don't have hairspray because I don't have hair. So this piece of advice will never, come in handy for me. But for you listening at home, always carry some hairspray in your car, because it might help save you. Unfortunately, I don't know if you could hear my cats fighting in the background, because that's what they do. But I don't think they're loud enough to... I could bring the microphone over to listen to, but no, you probably would be more interested in listening to my cat squeal than listening to me talk. But unfortunately for the Bimbos, the gas station attendant has managed to break himself free with pieces of plaster stuck to his hand. So he was strong enough to break the plaster, or the wall was just really fucking weak. One or the other, I'm not sure. And he's called the police. And the old couple have gotten back in their car and they're ready to get going. But on the radio, oh no! The radio just conveniently tells about how the killer Bimbos are on the loose. And be careful if you see them. Oh no! So the Bimbos are like, okay, we gotta hightail it out of here. But unfortunately, the cops have arrived. And... one of the cops, the deputy, is fucking Eddie Deason. You may not know that name, but you certainly fucking know who he is. He is like the fucking super nerd of every movie of the 80s. And he's got the really nerdy voice hey guys, it's me, Eddie Deason. And, I mean, you probably know him. Dexter's Lab, he played Mandark. So you should know him at least from that. But if you've ever watched any 80s, B-level teen comedy. Not Revenge of the Nerds and the stuff that had, big budgets. The really, fucking low-budget shit that you're wow, I can't believe someone made this. He was the nerd in that movie. And so... but, of course, because he's nerd and he can't really handle the pistol or... yeah. My... mind just froze there for a moment. What happened? How did the Bimbos get away? They got away because they're hot. And, Eddie Deason's oh, I've never seen beautiful women before. Dive even. No, not Professor Frink. Professor Frink was based on Jerry Lewis. Eddie Deason is not Jerry Lewis. Jerry Jewish. Oh my god. I think I need to take a break. So now there's a high-speed chase between the Bimbos and the sheriffs. And, man, the sheriffs are... oh my god, I'm ready to give up. But now I will soldier on. So the sheriffs are gaining upon the Bimbos. Oh no, they're gonna catch our friendly little Bimbos. But luckily the surf dudes... just happen to also be driving along. I don't know. I think the surf dudes are following the Bimbos. It's cosmic fate. And they're able to notice, hey, it's the Bimbos. Although they don't call them Bimbos because they are respectful. The surf dudes are respectful of women. So they decide to help, and they cut in front of the sheriff. That's going to give them enough time for the Bimbos to break away And they think like, oh right, we lost the sheriffs. But no, the sheriffs have taken a detour off the highway across the desert, which somehow gets them to go across and manages to catch them back up. I don't know. I failed geography. I don't even know if geography is what I'm talking about here. Is that what's gonna... I don't understand terrain. I don't know the geography. Yes, it's geography. I don't know the geography of this desert because I don't know geography at all. I did not excel at that. But the sheriffs have caught up to the Bimbos like, oh no, they're right there. So the Bimbos are like, what can we do? Let's throw our underwear at the sheriffs. Or more specifically, let's throw Peach's underwear. The underwear she uses for go-go dancing. And they throw all this underwear, and it's... the sheriffs can't see, and it's all over their windshield. And Lulu suffers a nipple slip as she's throwing them. And that is why they had to use a body double in the other scene. Because that nip slip, that used up like 1 second of her contracted boobage showage. And I don't think she had a lot of contracted boobage showage. This podcast would be so much better if, like, I wrote down lines like this and practiced them. So, her contracted boob showage. Yes. There, I got it. I've got it, but it's enough. The underwear flying to cause the cops to just go off-road, and there's some broken down car there, and the sheriff's car hits it and does the car flip that you've seen in like every like 80s action movie. And I'm pretty sure it actually is taken from some other film. But I don't know, maybe they had enough in the budget to show a car flip over. So they finally make it into Mexico, and the first thing they see are a bunch of white guys. Sure, authentic Mexican experience there. And they make their way into a dilapidated hotel. And, they have some trouble because, they don't speak the Spanish very well. And they end up accidentally ordering a male gigolo. Because they wanted a bathroom in their hotel room. Which I guess, I don't know. I guess, maybe seedy hotels don't have bathrooms, personal bathrooms in the rooms. But they didn't know the Spanish word for bathroom. But they knew John was Juan. So they asked for a Juan. But apparently Juan is a gigolo. But good news, because guess who's also staying at this hotel? The Surfer Dudes! And tall Owen Wilson tells Lulu, like, you're a beautiful lady. You don't need to wear makeup. Oh, he is so smooth. I can see why he's going to get to bang her by the end of the film. But some bad news, because who else is at this hotel? The sleazy Guido guy that shot Shifty Joe. Was it Shifty Joe? I've forgotten. If this is your first time listening, I'll give you a little peek behind the magic. I watched these films over the course of like a week. I'm not gonna sit and spend an hour and a half straight of my life, which is even longer because I have to pause every so often to tell you what happened in this movie I just saw. So I spread things out over the week, just a little bit here, a little bit there, so I don't always remember some of the finer details of the film. But I'm pretty sure the guy that got shot was Shifty Joe. And so Sleazy Guido guy, he's here at the hotel like, oh no. So they hatch up a plan that involves Peaches dressing in a very sultry blonde dress. Not a blonde, gold dress. And she's got a blonde wig on. Because she is going to go to the bar and, I think, seduce Sleazy Guido. Even though he's there with Sleazy Guida, I am going to make that happen. I'm going to make Guida happen. Oh, it wasn't Peaches, it was Darlene, the waitress. Which would make sense. You wouldn't want, Peaches and risk the chance of the scummy Guido recognizing her. Like, whoa, hey, you're the bimbo. because he does recognize her in a little bit. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. So Darlene invites the skeezy little Guido up to the hotel room, and he's like, yeah, I'll leave my girl and come bang you, because I'm a skeezy little Guido guy. And, things are starting to go hot and heavy, but then out from the closet pop out the Bimbos, and they tussle, and he's like, I know you, you're the Bimbos. See, I told you he recognized Peaches. So, it's a good thing they sent Darlene on the undercover mission, because, he would have seen through the costume and would have recognized Peaches and would not have fallen for this. But then, the skeezy Guido's girlfriend, the Guida, shows up, and that gives a momentary distraction that lets the Guido get in charge and take his gun and point it at everyone. He's like, I'm gonna shoot you all, because I'm a skeezy Guido. But then, the surfer dudes show up because they want to, hang 10, or whatever surfer dudes do. And that provides enough temporary distraction for the Bimbos to jump on top of the skeezy Guido and take his gun. And they tie him and his girlfriend up, while the surfer dudes are like, yeah, we'll come back later. This is a little too much for us, dude. They didn't say dude, but I feel like they're, 80s surfer guys in a movie. They have to say dude. It's like law or something. So, they've got the Guido and his girlfriend tied up, and then, who shows up? The sheriff from way back in the truck stop. He just I guess, chased them all the way down here and found them. He is dedicated. He is dedicated to his job. And he's going to arrest the Bimbos, because remember, he still thinks the Bimbos did it. But Darlene tells him, like, you got it wrong. These are my friends, and, they got framed. And he's like, well, it's Mexico. I have no jurisdiction anyhow, so you girls just go hang out, have fun, and I'll take these perps in. And, hopefully for the Bimbos' sake, that Guido is going to go and tell the truth. Because he could just keep saying, like, they tricked me and they kidnapped me and I was completely innocent. And without the evidence, they've got no recourse. Now, the Guido has left his coat in the room, and, oh my god, there is a big fucking wad of money, cash money, right in his pocket. Oh boy, this is gonna call for party time, because now they've got some money, and they're gonna spend it, honey. Yeah, I came up with that just off the top of my head. Can you believe that? So, they go, and then they're on the beach, tanning, and the surfer dudes are surfing, and this is like 5 minutes of just watching this, because, I don't know, I guess they just didn't hit the minimum runtime of the film, so they're like, just shots of them on the beach for 5 minutes. And then the movie threatens us that the Bimbos are going to be back in Bimbo Barbecue, which I really, really hope there is no Bimbo Barbecue. I am going to actually Google this, and first I get Bimbo Bakeries, which is pronounced Bimbo, actually. But you would think, like, that Bimbo Bakeries would change their name for some reason. Why leave it Bimbo? Bimbo Barbecue. What do we got? Yeah, it looks like, there was talk of it, maybe. I don't know. I'm not gonna read this, because just the idea, but just know that Bimbo Barbecue does not exist. But Bimbo Bakeries does, and it's Bimbo bread. And I don't know why they didn't change the name. Did they not look at it and think like, oh, everyone's gonna pronounce it Bimbo bread? I apologize, because that movie has brought my intelligence level down to the level of Bimbo. Though some would argue that my intelligence level is probably pretty down there to begin with. So, when I say, like, at the end of these movies that, like, I feel dumber, does it really mean all that much? Because I was pretty dumb to begin with. So I guess I can never truly, like, educate. I seriously, by the end of these movies, I am just bleh. Exactly. What do I want to say? I don't know. Press like, press buttons, push buttons, punch someone. VelvetAl@hotmail.com if you want to tell me something or suggest a movie, or leave a comment if you're on the YouTube page, or I don't know if any of the podcast places that this goes up on allows comments. If it does, don't do it because I probably won't ever see it. So, YouTube comments or velvetal@hotmail.com. Till next time, I love you guys and gals and in-betweeners.